Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our weekly Westchester Update. Today is Monday, May 1st, and we have hopefully an interesting report for you, give you an idea of some of the things that are happening in Westchester County for this week as we begin the month of May and continue through the springtime season. We'll be joined in a few minutes by the supervisor of the town of Ossining, Liz Feldman. We'll also be joined by Michael Orth, who's commissioner of our Department of Community Mental Health, and they each have some interesting conversations and topics to cover. I'll be joined in a few seconds by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. He'll cover some of the activities that are going to be happening in our parks, Westchester County parks, over the course of the next week and then leading into the rest of the spring season. It's a very busy time for our Parks Department, May, June, July, August, September. So we're going to be coming out of anything that looks like the winter time and into the full thrust of the spring. And then we have some other issues we want to give you an update on, including where we are aware of where we are in the state budget. The state budget is not yet officially completed. When it is and it becomes part of the law of the state of New York, we will invite a couple of our state representatives to come in and they can explain in direct detail what's happening. I want to begin briefly before we ask Supervisor Feldman to join us. We clearly went through a weekend with a tremendous amount of rain, and that rain had impacts all across our region and, of course, here in Westchester County as well. And this is Monday, and we expect that there's still some more rain in the forecast for later today and perhaps over the next few days, so we may not be out of the woods yet. But over the course of the weekend, we saw a lot of our roadways close down. The Bronx River Parkway, which is owned and controlled by Westchester County, all of the parkways are policed by Westchester, but we have the direct ownership over the Bronx River Parkway, is now completely open, but it was not completely open this morning. It was closed yesterday and today, and it is prone to flooding in a number of different locations. We had our Cracker Jack DPW team out there to try to do what they could to reduce the amount of the water. But as we often say, the Bronx River Parkway is named after the Bronx River, which is adjacent to it, as is the Sawmill River Parkway and the Hutchison River Parkway. These are the low parts of the topography where the banks of the river exist, and that's where the original parkways were built back in the 1920s. So this is why they're so subject to flooding. The minute we get an excessively high amount of rain, it can't drain out of the system. It backs up in our rivers and ponds, and adjacent to the rivers are the parkways. So we hope that we're through the worst of it, although we may see some flooding yet. At one point, when we saw rain greater than 2 inches experienced within an hour, we had water as high as 5 feet in some locations. The Pondfield Road underpass of the Bronx River Parkway, which that overpass connects Bronxville and Yonkers, and we've seen some other different areas up and down the line. We not only had some problems with just the level of water, but branches and logs and mud and things of that nature. So our road maintenance division addressed those issues as quickly as we could. We have a couple of other county parkways, Playland Parkway and Rye, the Central Westchester Parkway, which connects 287 to North White Plains and North Castle. And in most of these other places, we did not have to have a closure, but we were monitoring road conditions, and we hope those will be behind us. Many of the local streets that also were subject to flooding were the responsibilities of the towns, the villages, and the cities in which they are located in. And the interstate highway systems, the thruway system, is the responsibility of New York State government. We all work interactively, support each other when we can, but the bottom line is that if you do see heavy rainfall in the next day or two, because the grounds are saturated from the water that we just got, be careful. And certainly if a road is blocked off, don't test your knowledge of the road conditions over those of the individuals that have closed the roadway. The standing water may not look dangerous, but it could disable your car, and there have been cases of tragedies occurring when people tried to go through standing water that they did not realize was as deep as it is. But hopefully the worst is behind us. I want to thank all of our individuals through the Department of Emergency Services and Department of Public Safety, the county police and the county emergency services workers who responded to this. We had additional dispatchers for our 60 control function, which sends out some of the emergency services in many of our communities, not all of them, but when you dial 911, in certain communities, the 60 control function is what responds. They had an increase of 76% more incidents dispatched than normal, and that's a significant increase in size. They had 134 water conditions, 20 motor vehicle accidents over the course of this weekend. They had 2 of them that required an extrication from the vehicle, and there were 3 swift water flooding rescues. And When the waters recede, we don't necessarily see just how dangerous it was at the moment where it was flooding, and you can just imagine the fear that goes in minds of people when they think they could be washed away. So we've had fatalities over the course of years under heavy flooding conditions. So we're pleased that we got through it. We thank all of those people who performed well under stress, and we hope we don't see any more of it coming in the next few days. So now I'd like to turn to our guest, Ossining Town Supervisor Liz Feldman. We have a routine opportunity here, and we invite town supervisors, village mayors, and city mayors to join us and talk a little bit about their communities. Westchester is a fairly large county. We have 45 different municipalities. They run as small as Buchanan with 2,000 people. They run as large as the city of Yonkers with over 200,000 people. And they're all of different sizes, scopes, vibe, different restaurants, different things to make them attractive. And Ossining, certainly the town of Ossining, is a unique community sitting on the Hudson River. We know it from the Sing Sing prison, which has an historical presence, as well as a present-day facility as a place for state prison incarceration. Ossining has an interesting topography, sitting on the river, but a rise up into the Route 9 corridor, and their downtown area is placed over that. And of course, Ossining, the town, includes the village of Ossining and a large portion of the village of Briarcliff Manor. So this is a juggling act. And our new supervisor, Liz Feldman, has been in office over the course of less than a year, but she's been on the town board previously, and we're very happy to have her here. So, Madam Supervisor, please share with us your thoughts about the town of Ossining.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon, everyone. As George said, my name is Elizabeth Feldman. I'm the town supervisor of the town of Ossining. Most people call me Liz. The town of Ossining is located approximately 35 miles north of New York City and is on the banks of the beautiful Hudson River, as George said. It is also an express stop for the Metro North train, which is really handy. Overall, the town of Ossining has a population of 40,000 residents. Located within the town are the village of Ossining with a population of 27,000 and 93% of the village of Briarcliff, which has a population of about 7,500. The remaining unincorporated area has a population of 5,500 people. And I'm happy to say that after many, many years of planning, both of the villages and the unincorporated area are undergoing some major revitalization with a focus on community, equity, connectivity, sustainability, walkability, and bikeability. The village of Briarcliff has not only made some important trail connectors to link their hiking areas and parks together, they have also created a connection from the North County Trailway right into the heart of their downtown. Briarcliff is also revitalizing its downtown area by removing some of the older buildings to create new shops and living spaces with sidewalks and community gathering spaces, as well as more parking for everyone. The village of Ossining has been awarded about $30 million in the last few years, including $10 million from the New York State DRI, Go State, and has huge plans to revitalize the community with a brand new community center, a multimodal transportation center, complete with e-bikes, e-scooters, parking and charging for electric vehicles, a new downtown performance and gathering space, the restoration of the old Olive Opera House, and they plan not only to make Route 9 safer, but focus on making our entire community more walkable, bikeable for everyone. They have a First Friday event every month throughout the community that has many businesses offering discounts, hosting events, concerts, talks, games, and more. Don't miss it. The unincorporated area, which is the part that I'm in charge of, has been really busy as well. We have recently completed a new comprehensive plan focusing on sustainability and affordability. Some of our current projects include revitalizing our senior nutrition program kitchen and introducing the electric bus that we just got into our fleet. Thank you to CDBG grants from Westchester County. Working with New York State on making Route 9A safer and a smoother ride, please. Installing 2 new playgrounds, thanks to the generosity of Senator Harcum and Senator Elijah Reichlin-Melnick. 1 in Gerlach Park and 1 in Ryder Park. They should be completed by the fall. We have completed a study in collaboration with Cornell Cooperative Adaptive Design Studio, and we'll be redesigning our waterfront park to be more resilient and more enjoyable for everyone. Improvements include Wi-Fi access for everyone, a brand new stage and performance area funded by the New York State DRI grant, new bathrooms by our popular spray park, introducing kayak instruction and rentals, improving our fishing piers, and maintaining affordable boating opportunities through our community sailing program and our historic Ossining Boat and Canoe Club. We're even doing a water quality study in hopes of one day opening the beach. The town has just celebrated Earth Day with Green Ossing's 13th annual Green Earth Day celebration, which attracts around 100 vendors and 4,000 people to our beautiful Lewis Ingle Waterfront Park, all to learn about sustainability in all of its different forms. The town itself has been working on sustainability by expanding our food composting program at Cedar Lane Park, highlighting our organic garden and new air source heat pumps at Cedar Lane Art Center, introducing more electric vehicles and lawn equipment into our operations, banning the use of pesticide, that's done, in our parks, and mulching our leaves in place, to name a few. We also have a real focus on removing invasive plants and replanting native species instead to support our pollinators and our wildlife. Some of the great things to do in the unincorporated area of Ossining include visiting the Bethany Artist Community and taking part in their many classes and programs, or just stopping by to see the exhibits or performances. Also, just beyond our borders, but within Ossining address, is Teatown Lake Nature Preserve, with 1,000 acres of land, 15 miles of trails, and countless opportunities to learn and engage with nature. The town is looking forward to a fun-filled summer starting with fireworks and a big concert on July 3rd at the Waterfront Park, to be followed by a weekly River Jam concert series complete with food trucks, beer garden, and amazing music with the backdrop of the sunset over the Hudson River. Concerts are 7 p.m. Friday nights with a rain date of Sunday, all summer long. Both of the villages also have many fairs, festivals, and celebrations throughout the year. Check out the websites to learn more, and I hope you'll be able to join us and experience Ossining for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Liz. Appreciate having you here. That's Town Supervisor Liz Feldman from the town of Ossining, and we hope that you'll visit Ossining sometime soon and get a chance to enjoy some of the great tourism activities, and down at Engle Waterfront Park where the village meets the water. There's plenty to see and plenty to do. So thank you, Liz, for that. Before I bring on our next speaker, Michael Orth, who's our Commissioner of the Department of Mental Health, I just want to cover, just before we came on the air, we received a report that is sort of breaking news type of situation. We do not have all of the details, but we have just been made aware of a pending federal prosecution of a former Board of Legislators staff member, and that the U.S. Attorney's Office will be releasing data information and details later this afternoon. This has obviously been an issue that's been very prominent in some of the media coverage of what's been happening at the Board of Legislators, and so now we are all staying tuned to see what the federal U.S. prosecutors are going to announce, and we assume that will happen sometime during the course of this afternoon, and you'll be on watch for it, as will we. Back to our mission at hand. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, the month of May, here in Westchester County. We recognize, as an administration, the need for us to be proactive in the things that we need to do to help deal with mental health issues. They are on display in the society at large. Sometimes they have a connection to criminal justice, sometimes they don't, but whatever it is, it's serious. And we're fortunate to have a department dedicated to address these issues and come up with strategies and implement strategies that could be helpful. We're fortunate to have, as the commissioner of that department, Michael Orth. Michael's had a 30-year career in this field. He's been a long-time Westchester County executive, and we're very happy that he agreed to serve as commissioner when we first took office, and has been doing an excellent job along with some of his key people. Some of them are with us in the room today, Deputy Commissioner Joe Glazer and Bill Weitz of his team. So, Mr. Commissioner, please come and tell us a little bit about what we can expect to see in the month of May.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Orth.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, County Executive, for the invitation. And I also want to acknowledge our DCMH team, Department of Community Mental Health. We have Deputy Commissioner Glazer and Bill Weitz from our office, who are helping us launch May as Mental Health Month. I don't need to say this, but we all know we're living in unprecedented times, which has led to significant mental health needs in our society. We have all been impacted by the events of the past several years, including the pandemic and other, that has led to many of us feeling stress, anxiety, irritability, depression, grief, along with the physical health challenges. This has also resulted in increase in social disconnect, decrease in work and school productivity, isolation, violence, self-medication through alcohol or other, self-injurious behaviors, and sadly completed suicides. Let us be clear, when it comes to our mental health being impacted, this is not a them or those people issue. It's our colleagues, our neighbors, our family, and perhaps us. Westchester is no different. Recent surveys have indicated the number one health concern and priority of Westchester residents is mental health and the opioid overdose issues facing our residents. Since 1949, our country has recognized May as Mental Health Awareness Month. For those history buffs, Harry Truman happened to be president back then. But it provides us an opportunity to educate and promote the importance of taking care of our mental health and meeting the needs of those who are experiencing mental health issues. We as a nation have had serious gaps in our mental health system prior to COVID, and the pandemic was truly the tipping point in exposing serious issues of access, equity, and lack of insurance parity in our national behavioral health care, as well as significant workforce challenges. We in Westchester are fortunate to live in a county where our leadership has made mental health a top priority. Since day one, January 2008, even before the pandemic, County Executive Latimer and Deputy County Executive Jenkins have placed mental health up front and provided the resources and support to allow our department and the agencies we work with to do the important work, often saving lives they do every day, day in, day out. Some of these highlights include expanding services, investments in mental health first aid training, Project Alliance, which is our Reimagining Police initiative that started here in Westchester County, and I'm proud to report some first quarter numbers. In Westchester County, our mobile crisis response teams have had contact with 2,577 Westchester residents through a police response and diversion of mental health. Under our county executive, we've expanded our national 988 suicide prevention hotline, and this past quarter alone, 1,047 Westchester residents reached out to our 988 St. Vincent's line for support for themselves or a family member. We also have opiate settlement funds, which is being dedicated by our county to mental health, substance use, co-occurring, and opiate prevention, harm reduction, and expanding treatment. So I want to thank the county executive and deputy county executive for leadership and all of the support of our providers to provide these critical life-saving services. As the county executive mentioned, May is an opportunity to really educate ourselves, to learn about mental health, and to also educate the general community. We're excited. We have several events held in May, including on May 16th, our Healing Garden opening at Ridge Road Park in Scarsdale. This is a memorial dedication site for those we've lost to suicide, but also an opportunity to educate our community about suicide and suicide prevention. On May 17th, we have our DCMH Commissioners Forum at the White Plains Library, which gives us an opportunity to speak to our consumers, our residents, and those receiving services about mental health supports, what's working and what's missing, so we can be a better service to those individuals. On May 18th, an important topic, harm reduction in action training. This is open to the general public virtually to learn more about harm reduction and how we can stop the opioid epidemic and the fatalities. Perhaps the biggest event, May 20th, the NAMI Walks Westchester, which is held at Ridge Road Park. It's the biggest gathering and walk, really recognizing the importance of mental health and suicide prevention in Westchester County. We also have on May 23rd, Children's Mental Health Awareness Celebration, which is the 11th annual Myra Alfred's Conference. And this year we're focusing on something really critical, leveraging youth and family voice for systems transformation. And it really involves having the young people as well as family members really giving their expertise and helping to shape our system. And this will be held at our very own Westchester County Center. And finally, throughout the month, we offer several mental health first aid trainings, as well as soul shop and faith-based mental health training for our faith-based communities. And as we started today, we do a daily social media posting for different information articles on mental health and education. If you would like any information about those events that I mentioned, or if you have training requests, please call our department at 914-995-5200. And finally, what can each and all of us do to really recognize Mental Health Awareness Day? My response to that is educate yourself. Model good mental wellness, just like we do with physical health care. And if you see someone struggling, ask them how they are doing and let them know that you care and help is out there. So please don't hesitate calling our department at 995-5225 and 520 if we can be of assistance. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Michael.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's Michael Orth, our Commissioner of the Department of Community Mental Health. You can see the wide range of issues that sit before us in the county government. It's not the breadth, the depth of the federal government nor the state government, but we've already talked about an intergovernmental relationship with town government and village government. We've talked about dealing with emergency services in light of the weather. Now we talk about some of our programs for mental health. And in a few minutes, with Ken Jenkins joining me as Deputy County Executive, we'll talk about some of the things that are happening in our Parks Department. Let me highlight that we have many times the same month that has a number of different themes that we focus on. The month of May is also a month to recognize our growing Asian American population. AAPI is the acronym standing for Asian American and Pacific Islander, that ethnic group. That group has been growing in population here in Westchester County. We created a special advisory board on issues that relate to the people within that community, and this Heritage Month has an official theme of advancing leaders through opportunity. This is an outgrowth as well of the fact that we created an Asian American Advisory Board, and we've utilized our executive order function to increase awareness of the community within the government, and then also to address issues of prejudice as we do for all different groups, so that people who live in Westchester County, whatever their ethnic background, feel that they have a home here, that we are all brothers and sisters, even in our diversity, that there's great strength out of our diversity. The AAPI Advisory Board has conducted a survey to try to get to the nub of certain key issues, and they published some of the results for that, and we're going to be looking at how we implement some of these actions in the days to come. But this upcoming month is a way to focus on some of these things. We will see a number of different opportunities that we will have to express our work with the AAPI community here with our Westchester brothers and sisters. So we have yet another public policy focus to look at. Next, I'd like to ask Ken to touch base with where we are in some of our recreational programs. We know that in the heart of the winter, we still have winter programs. There's Winter Wonderland from the period of time after Thanksgiving to the Christmas season. We have a host of things that happened that tie into other activities. A little celebration for Groundhog Day at Muscoot Farm in February. But the parks of Westchester County really come alive right about now through the month of April, late April into May, and so we've got some things coming up, and I'd like Ken to cover them.
And thanks, George. And especially as given that this is a Mental Health Awareness Month, there's nothing more better to be able to deal with some mental health, just some good exercise and activities than our nationally accredited award-winning park system with over 18,000 acres and over 50 different facilities that you can choose from. So whether walking along the Bronx River or anywhere throughout one of the tremendous parks that we have, it's a great opportunity to deal with mental health by just taking a walk in one of your county park systems. And that's going to kick off this Sunday in earnest, as County Executive Latimer just pointed out, with Bicycle Sundays returning. On May 7th, it'll be Bicycle Sundays back on the Bronx River Parkway. Certainly today wouldn't be that day because of after all the rain that we had, but certainly you can bike, jog, ride, or walk, or even skate along the parkway from the Westchester County Center right down to Scarsdale Road at Yonkers. So Bicycle Sunday is another tremendous opportunity to do that. More than 60,000 people participate in that every year, and it's certainly a great partnerships that we have with our Parks Foundation, sponsored by many great individuals that make sure that happen. But this week, May 7th, it starts from 10 a.m. To 2 p.m. Certainly that makes an opportunity for you to not go up the Bronx River Parkway. If you're going to do that on a Sunday, you'll be able to use one of the other roadways to get around, but it's a great opportunity to do that, again, to participate, biking, riding, jogging, walking, or skating along the parkway, starting this Sunday, May 7th at 10 p.m. Following that up, Based on the pandemic, we made a lot of modifications in how we used to do Salute to Seniors. It used to be just one event at the county center, and because of the creativity of everyone working together, we've been able to split those events up to different components around the county, and there's great individuals that come out. Our Department of Senior Programs and Services does a great job of bringing out everyone to help participate in those senior Salute to Senior days. Includes dancing. Every once in a while, you'll get the county executive to sing. The deputy county executive doesn't do that. But again, the county executive is singing, dancing, and being able to work and talk to all the individuals around for saluting our seniors. So it's a great opportunity. The very first one is coming up on May 10th, and that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2:30, and that's going to be in Ridge Road Park in Hartsdale. We'll continue to tell you about the other events as they happen through May, and it's the first one on May 10th from 10 to 12:30 at Ridge Road Park, which is in Hartsdale. Then we'll follow up on Sunday, May 14th from 9:30 to 2:30, and every Sunday until November 19th in Muscoot Farm. So then in great town of Somers, to be able to have the farmers market. That weekly farmers market supports farmers and sustainable efforts in our area, and it features more than 20 local vendors each and every week. Another great opportunity to be able to see any one of your family, friends, and neighbors from the area and get that farm fresh food, to be able to walk around. Again, great for your mental health, and to be able to do so many other things. Right at Muscoot Farm as well on Sunday the 14th, you can go to the farmers market on one side, but you also can participate in the sheep shearing event. Again, at Muscoot Farm from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday, May 14th. It's going to be a live event, an event that features live sheep shearing, activities with vendors and more. This event is free, and that is held rain or shine, and you can visit muscootfarm.org for more details. We have so many other things happening, continuing our park system. Certainly that you can get involved on our park system in the golf courses. The golf courses, especially now that we had a little extra rain, those golf courses will be a little bit more challenging for you to be out there to do that. There's so many great activities to do. Again, it's your county park system, and make sure that you take advantage of it. Back to you, George.
Thanks very much. Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive. A few more things we want to cover while we have a few minutes together. Let me highlight that where we are right now with the Board of Legislators, we've submitted some specific items for their consideration. We recently came to closure on negotiations with the Civil Service Employee Association, CSEA, which is our largest union. We have a workforce of about 4,500 employees. They're broken into 9 separate bargaining units, and then we have a number of non-represented management positions. And over the course of the last number of months, we've closed contracts for the Teamsters, for the New York State Nurses Association, and for our PBA, Police Benevolent Association, both the regular and the superior officers. All of those have contracts that have been closed, and most of them projected for the future years. The negotiation with CSEA, their contract expired at the end of December of 22. So beginning January 1st, we continued our negotiations. We came to closure about a month ago, a little over a month ago, on some provisions for a contract that will take us a few years to the future, I believe 5 years. And that contract has now been ratified by the members of CSEA, better than 2-1. And so now we've submitted to the Board of Legislators for their review. Under the New York State Taylor Law, the adoption of any such contracts is negotiated by whatever the executive branch of the government is, and can only be voted yes or no by the legislative branch. So they have the right to accept or reject, but not to reopen the contract for further negotiations or further discussion. So that is before the Board of Legislators. They will identify through their procedures the committee and then the general public dialogue that we'll have. You're certainly welcome to interact with the Board of Legislators to the extent that, as an individual, you want to comment on these things. On the assumption of successful completion of the CSEA contract, We still have a couple of bargaining units left to deal with. The Correction Officers Benevolent Association and the Superior Officers in the Correction Department, we're still under negotiations with them. And then there is a component of public workers who are represented by District Attorney Investigators Union. And while that particular department is under the control of the District Attorney, separate from county direct control, it is our responsibility to negotiate that contract, and that will follow, most likely, our conclusion of negotiations with those in the Corrections Department. And then with the CSEA contract completed, we will be presenting to the Board of Legislators a plan for the non-represented management and their provisions. So all of these things basically represent trying to have good policy with our workforce, try to show our workforce that we want them to be compensated appropriately, and at the same time we want to have a work product that comes out that is effective and efficient. We've had good relationships with our workforce. There are always issues that arise, and we try to work through them in an attitude of mutual respect. But we're very happy that now that CSEA's ratification process is over, that goes before the Board of Legislators. Last week we had a press conference where we showed for the first time 4 pieces of legislation. We went through it in some detail that day. I don't need to repeat it. It's down there to watch if you're desiring of watching another press conference. But we identified 4 bills, all of which were bills that were created at the state level of government and are under consideration by the New York State Legislature, the Assembly and the Senate. We did not create these from scratch. We modified these bills. They already had the support of Environmental Advocates of New York, which is a major entity. And they represent Lead-Free Parks Act, Addressing Asthma in Communities of Color Amendment, the Renewable Energy Database Act, and the Equity and Environmental Legislation Act. All 4 of those bills are now submitted to the Board of Legislators for their review. Their review will involve committee discussion, public hearing before the board. There's the possibility of any sort of modification, addition, or subtractions to the bills. This is the prerogative of the legislature. And for all of those individuals who may not have known about these bills in advance, that's why we had the press conference to announce we were submitting the bills. And now there's an opportunity for public comment, positive or negative, and that is what the legislative process is. So for those who may not have known about this until we announced it, now we have the opportunity for public dialogue. We welcome that public dialogue. We as an administration, as all executive branch, stays in dialogue with the legislative branch as they review this. We have individuals who will give rationale for why the bills were constructed the way they were. They were modified through the support of our law department for the county, and we hope they'll have favorable treatment. We don't treat these 4 pieces of legislation as the ultimate environmental legislation. Other bills certainly can be created. Legislators themselves can create legislation, which they submit and discuss, as well as those that we as an administration submit. And in some of these areas where we go with this bill may go so far, and it may be determined that a separate bill will take it further. And we welcome that. We think that's part of the public process. So we view this as a positive thing. We don't view it as a mutually exclusive thing, and we hope everybody receives our initiative in that same light. Just as we did a month and a half ago when we submitted the Truthful Disclosure Act, which was passed into law, we are showing energy and drive and determination to try to address issues in Westchester County. We're not perfect. We're not universal in our wisdom or thinking, but in the small d democratic process, we're trying very hard to show that we're addressing issues at hand. Certainly environmental issues are part of that. Another thing that we take great pride in is the work that we're doing through the executive branch. We have set aside money already approved in the budget for electrical vehicle charging stations. And we have a video that will tell you a little bit about the progress that we've made in that particular area. So if we have that opportunity, please let's share it with the public.
We're at Blue Mountain Reservation. It's one of the county parks, and we're here to talk about electric vehicle charging stations.
We're at one of the new installations of our EV charging that we're putting around through Westchester County, throughout our parks, our golf courses, and for our own fleet.
People will come here, they'll go for a hike on a trail, and they'll charge their car while they're enjoying nature and enjoying the clean air that the electric vehicles provide.
A few years ago, we only had a small handful of electric vehicle charging stations installed, and we've really pushed to design more charging stations, get them installed as quickly as we can.
These chargers are no different than what the public is already using. It's very easy. You approach the charger, you use an app, it'll be mapped, it'll be tied into all kinds of electric vehicle charging apps that are already existing. And then once you approach the charger, you activate it via the app like you would any other electric vehicle charger.
The goal is to install these charging stations in as many county parking lots as possible.
When any county project gets started, we've got to address at least 20% of the parking spots in each parking lot with electric vehicle charging stations.
Some sites are easier to install these charging stations because there's a nearby power source. But with other different locations, we have to go through Con Ed to have them install power for us. And then we put in all the infrastructure and we can install the stations.
We're looking at how we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and make more environmentally friendly buildings and places within the county.
We're teaming up in the future with local municipalities to put chargers on Main Street. Our goal is to install over 150 chargers this calendar year and hundreds in the years to come.
The administration of County Executive Latimer, this is definitely a priority, and we're trying to be responsive to that.
I can see a lot of people getting these new electrical vehicles, and it's nice to see the impact on the environment.
We're doing this for clean air, quite simple. And when you approach our chargers, our message is there. Clean air brought to you by Westchester County.
And we want to thank our professionals in county government, in the Department of Public Works and Transportation, in the Department of Environmental Facilities, Peter McCart, who's our Director of Energy, Conservation, and Sustainability, all of them for their cooperative work in this particular area. We are striving to be more environmentally sensitive. We are not there yet. There's more to be done, and we'll do as much as we can, and we'll continue to move forward. But this is certainly a step forward. The conversion of our bus fleet, the expansion of electric vehicle charging stations, our efforts to take food waste out of the garbage stream, to try to reduce the amount of garbage that's generated in the county, to do certain pieces of legislation that we think would be helpful, our advocacy for the Environmental Bond Act. All of these things, I think, put us on the right side of issues that involve the environment. Let me touch briefly on the New York State budget. The New York State budget is both a fiscal and a policy document, and I've said this before, but it's important to understand that one of the most significant reasons why the New York State budget is late, and when the county budget is not, and the city budgets and the town and villages budgets are not, is that it is not just a fiscal document where you identify how much money you have, how you're going to spend it, and where you're going to get it from in terms of revenue. It is a policy document, and the way the state is structured, the governor controls the language of how the money is to be used. So these policies that we've heard talked about become debated at the time of the budget, and oftentimes they aren't resolved within the deadline that the budget itself is due. That is a discussion for the state legislature and the governor to have. I served my time in both the Assembly and the Senate, familiar with it. I sat through one very long, late budget in 2010 myself. Did not get paid during that period of time, which was no personal wonderful thing, but also wanted to make sure that you understand that these implications of policies matter, and they affect you as individuals, and they affect us within our governmental responsibilities. It appears that the state budget is coming close to closure. It may close by the end of the week. If we have firm information, then next Monday we will invite a couple of key representatives to join us here to explain the state budget in some detail. That may not be possible for next Monday, depending on when the closure of these things comes, so it may happen a couple of weeks hence. But whenever it is, you'll get a full breakdown. But just from a general standpoint, you've heard a number of issues that have been debated. There was issues that related around Governor Hochul's housing proposal, which included in it setting goals for additional housing units to be developed over the course of a 3-year period of time. And then also proposals within that for transit-oriented development and mandated density, and also a mandated override of local zoning. We supported, as a county government, the initiative for more housing and for more affordable housing. We supported the setting of goals. We did not support overriding zoning, and we did not support having an imposition of what density should look like in a transit-oriented area, because every one of those transit-oriented areas are very different. We see that development happening in a number of places. It's happening here in White Plains. It's happening in New Rochelle and downtown Yonkers, in the Tarrytown Sleepy Hollow corridor, in and around Portchester. But it cannot be, in our judgment, a universal action. Those issues were taken out of the budget. I expect there'll be more discussion, and going forward, our county is willing to work with the state on a cooperative basis, with some incentives perhaps, to try to get more housing built. We have done a lot in Westchester in the last 5 years, and we expect we can do more, but to do it within the confines of local control, so that local control is acknowledged and appreciated and not vilified, which is part of what happened in this process. We believe there is a path forward that is positive in this, even though that's not part of the budget. Governor Hochul has proposed ending the state's pass-through of money that was set aside by the federal government, bound for county governments through the federal Medicaid assistance program, and that EFMAP, we always use acronyms here, represented a significant amount of money that the state would withhold. We do not have the final numbers. It does appear that they will withhold some of that money and perhaps phase in it over the next few years. This has the implication of creating a budget gap in Westchester County. Of what size and scope, we don't know. It might be under $10 million. It might be over $10 million, but those are significant numbers. We passed a budget which closed at the end of December, approved by the Board of Legislators, unanimously, I might add. That budget was properly balanced. It involved a decrease in county property tax levy for the 4th straight year. It fully funded programs that we believe in, such as assisting feeding people with food insecurity, providing money to upgrade our parks, to do capital project improvements, to fully fund our police so we could fight crime effectively. All of those things done in a context that was fiscally responsible and continues our efforts to raise our bond rating. To have a mid-year budget crisis of any sort now will require us, our executive team, to meet to come up with strategies to close whatever that gap is. And some of that gap will be created by the withholding of the EFMAP money. We have opposed that, and I want to thank bipartisanly our state legislative delegation, both the Democrats and the Republicans that represent Westchester County, for going to bat for us and for the other counties. But it does appear that is not going to be fully successful, and that the county will take a hit. Other counties will as well, and we'll have to see how that turns out. We'll certainly be very transparent about the choices we have. We know that cutting services in the middle of the year, cutting staff in the middle of the year, making actions that will be frowned upon by the bond rating agencies as being a return to irresponsible budgeting. These are all things that we have to work at, and we need to thread a needle in order for us to do this properly. We can't just go to our reserve funds to absorb the hit, because this hit is not a one-year hit. This will be a perpetual hit that will actually grow over the next few years. The MTA payroll tax arrangements were settled upon. It will not be expanded here in the suburbs. It will be expanded in the city. The rationale behind that is the great beneficiary of the suburban transit system are the businesses in New York City, in that the people who live here in the suburbs have the transit to get to their jobs in the city. The cities benefit from having that workforce accessibility, so they will have more of the MTA payroll tax responsibility. We'll see how that plays out. New York State will be providing free universal meals for students in New York, over 800,000 children eligible for that program. There is decisions being made about what will happen for natural gas hookups in new buildings, that there's a ban coming up. Regulation of recreational marijuana, tuition hikes at SUNY and CUNY were removed from the discussion. Additional psychiatric beds made available for mental health provisions. Also, additional cost on cigarette sales. And there's a host of other different things. The general increase in income tax, which is the primary revenue stream for the state, was not increased in this budget. But we're going to see the full scope of it, and we'll see the full scope of it as it affects the county. Again, these are decisions made by the state legislature, not by those of us in county government. We lobby based on our opinions. We share our opinions, and we try to help change as much as we can where we think that change is necessary. More to come as we report further. But we're watching it, and we're trying to be a helpful player in the game. Next, we have a big change coming up in our emails. We've talked about it a little bit before. Ken Jenkins is going to cover a little bit greater detail.
Thanks, George. And starting today, we have announced this over the past few weeks, but starting today, all Westchester County government email addresses will transition from the westchestergov.com to westchestercountyny.gov. And the reason that is, again, is because of the growing prevalence of fake websites and fraudulent emails. Westchester County government is sending a clear message that the county is an official, trusted, and authentic source of information. Unlike all other email domains, .gov email addresses are reserved strictly for government organizations and publicly controlled entities, ensuring that only those with genuine authority can use them. There's so many safety issues, and all the saved links that we have out there for westchestergov.com will continue to work for the time being. And when employees respond to you, starting today, right from the beginning this morning, it will convert automatically to the new westchestercountyny.gov email address. In order to do that, since our Westchester County westchestergov.com has been so embedded in everything that we've done for many, many years, it's going to have to change. And the current logo is an image of the web page URL. Westchester County is going to continue to use an interim logo, which says Westchester County, and that will be able to give us an opportunity to do the research and be a part of an exciting transition to a new logo, whatever that's going to look like. Stay tuned, because everyone is going to get a chance to participate, and it's going to be something that we're going to work on as we move forward. We have an RFP out right now to assist us in that transition. The new email address has been tested for the past 6 months by the Westchester County Departments of Information Technology, our Public Safety, Westchester County Public Safety, and Westchester County Board of Elections. So it is something that we are very comfortable with. Again, the switch was very seamless this morning. County Executive Latimer and myself were down this morning in our lobby of our building as our employees were there with members of the Department of Information Technology, encouraging people and letting them know that the change was happening. They got a chance to grab a cup of coffee and to learn more about what they needed to do. So for you out in the public, westchestercountyny.gov is that official address, so do not be surprised when you see it. That is the official information from Westchester County.
Thank you, Ken. Let me just make an additional note on the change of the email addresses. When this was originally the westchestergov.com, what was now the previous email address was established. It was established back in the late 1990s under one of my predecessors, and at the time, email was still not universally used, and websites were not universally in use. It seems hard to imagine that, but for those of you of a certain age, I have reached that certain age, what was happening 22 years ago is very different from what we have now. We understand that Homeland Security is in the process of requiring all governments to move to a .gov platform. But keep in mind that back in the late 90s, the .gov platform was only used for the federal government websites. And that is why a county government and some other governments came up with different ones that were .com. But now, just as Ken pointed out, those who are involved in cyber criminality or whatever know how to replicate .com sites, which don't have the same protection, apparently, as a .gov does. So hopefully this will help us reduce the incidence of cybercrime. Truthfully, this area is beyond any direct experience that I have in my life, so I look at the professionals and they advise us this, and the professionals in Washington advise us, so we're moving this direction. I will say, though, if we're going to have to rebrand Westchester County, of all of the possible county executives who are lawyers, who are educators, media individuals, you have a county executive whose background is in marketing. So if we're going to have to rebrand the county, this is a good time to do it, and I'm happy to be here for that particular effort, and that's yet to come. Let me close out by reminding you something that we've talked about before in respect to all of our different friends in the veterans community, that we have a date to save the date, Friday night, July 21st, we're planning a freedom concert to honor our American military heroes. This is at the Westchester County Center, fairly recently reopened from its experience being a healthcare facility, and now it's back to being general use. We've had a number of events there since we had that opening basketball tournament 2 months ago, and that freedom concert, 7 p.m. At Westchester County Center. More information will be coming as we go along. It will tie into the fact that the New York State American Legion, is actually called the Department of New York American Legion, statewide convention will be held in Westchester County. Westchester Marriott and Sleepy Hollow Hotel are the headquarter hotels for that. It's the first time it's been in Westchester County in memory. Ron Tochi, who heads our Veteran Services, has been a key point in trying to help that happen. And this concert, we think, will be a lot of fun. It'll be targeted for those who are veterans. That skews a little bit older, but all the respect in the world to the work that they've done, and that's something for our agenda. So that covers our reports. I see Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communications, is here, which means I must have a question from the press. So let me invite any questions that we have before we part company.
Yes, we have one question from Dan Murphy from the Rising Media Group. He asks, what are your thoughts on the incident involving Anand Singh, a former employee of the Board of Legislators, and the timing and handling of his termination?
Well, this issue has been, quite the controversial issue over the last week to 10 days. It has directly involved the leaders of the Board of Legislators as they've made assessment about what happened. Mr. Singh was an employee of the Board of Legislators. He was fired as of, I believe, the 13th or the 14th of the month, so he's been out of his position now for over 2 weeks. The information from an executive branch standpoint, we were made aware, I was personally made aware of the concerns about Mr. Singh, that he may have been involved in illegal actions on or about the 13th or the 12th. And the only interaction that we had with him, he was an employee of the Board of Legislators, was he was a member of our Asian American Advisory Board as a being of South Asian descent. And we sought and received an immediate resignation of him from that board, which we accepted, and he left that responsibility. Now, I've just alluded to earlier, we're going to find out more. We just found out as we were walking on that there is some U.S. attorney prosecuting efforts that may have been breaking even as we're doing this report now. That will tell us more about what happens next, and whatever the illegalities that he may be involved with, that will be resolved through the judicial and the prosecutorial process. In terms of the handling of the situation, we were made aware of the problem on the basis of seeing a video that gave substantial support to the accusation that he had done something which was illegal. That video became apparent to us right at the same time that he was relieved of his responsibilities. We were not aware that video existed previously, and I'm sure had it existed earlier, more decisive action would have happened. The leadership of the Board of Legislators is the prerogative of the legislative branch. Both Ken and I have served as chairs of the Board of Legislators. We each served two-year terms each, about 10 years apart roughly, and the construct of the board, different people at different times have a different review of things. The actions that were taken relative to this is their prerogative, and I wouldn't want to step on their prerogatives. They have certain areas, redistricting, the Board of Health, the Rent Guidelines Board, that are purely legislative prerogatives. And of course, as an executive branch, we guard our executive prerogatives. They're things that we have to do whenever we have to take action. The termination of an individual in the public domain is a little different from what happens in the private sector. I have worked in corporate life, and in those corporations, when a decision was made by senior management to terminate somebody, it happens with a lot less involvement. It becomes an executive decision that's immediately implemented. Not quite as easy in the public sector. There are certain protections that are built in through HR and so forth. But whatever those decisions are, that will come out of whatever investigations occur, and there'll be an assessment made, and the board is entitled to make their decisions relative to leadership. So I don't sit in judgment on that. I do think it's a sad episode, and now the episode is far from over. It's just now beginning to go into a prosecutorial and a judicial phase, so we'll see how that plays out. Any other questions? If not, then we'll thank you very much for your time. We appreciate that you've hung in there, if you have, to the end of this. And we plan to be with you again next Monday and give you an update of whatever we have at that point in time. Certainly the state budget, we may have more specificity at that point in time, which we'll be happy to share, and then other bits and pieces. So in the meantime, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful, safe week ahead. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Have a good day.